Hey Twisters, so today let's talk about 10 breakout defensemen for the upcoming 2022-23 NHL season. This was not exactly easy, but nonetheless I've selected 10 defensemen, many of whom are still kind of getting their feet wet in the NHL, but this upcoming season, they might set a new benchmark as to where they can be for the rest of their NHL career. So comment down below, guys, who are your breakout defensemen for this upcoming season? And if you haven't already, be sure to check out my top 10 breakout centers video because there's all kinds of good stuff in there as well. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the first player I want to talk about is from the Colorado Avalanche. And no, it's not Makar and it's not Taves, but it's Bowen Byram, the 4th overall pick back in 2019. This upcoming season, hopefully his first full year in the NHL. Last season, he had concussions, and so in 30 games, he was still able to manage 5 goals and 12 assists for 17 points. And then he came alive quite well in the playoffs as well. In 20 games, he had 9 assists. He threw 45 hits. I didn't know he was that physical. But yeah, defensively, he was a sound player in the postseason, had a plus 15 rating as well. So the sky is certainly the limit for Bowen Byram. He'll get a little bit more chance this upcoming season, I would think. I would think that he'll stay in a top 4 role with the Avalanche, and who knows, maybe even grow from there to play with Cale Makar one day as well. So yeah, really looking forward to what this guy can do in his first full season in the NHL. Also, don't forget that he's a restricted free agent at the end of next season, and so he will want to have an impressive showing in order to earn a great contract for his next deal. This next player has already kind of broken out, but I do think that he has more to show in the NHL, so I expect him to set a career year easily next season, and that is Evan Bouchard of the Edmonton Oilers. Again, in the playoffs, a great puck mover, really good decision making, and I'd love to see this guy quarterback that top unit power play going forward. Kind of now that Tyson Barrie has seen a bit of a role reduction with the Edmonton Oilers. So Bouchard last season, 81 games played, 12 goals and 31 assists for 43 points. He plays with Brett Kulak, who I think was their best defender in the playoffs and was extended in the offseason. I can't see why these two would be broken up in this next year. My next defenseman comes from the Nashville Predators, and I've selected not Dante Fabro here, but actually Alexandre Carrier. This guy made the all-rookie team this past season alongside Moritz Seider. He played in 77 games, had 3 goals and 27 assists for 30 points, a number of really good seasons in the AHL for the Milwaukee Admirals as well. And so he's a mainstay for the Predators defense going forward, and it's only getting better, especially since they got Ryan McDonagh in the offseason from the Tampa Bay Lightning. So when I look at the pairings for this next season, this is the way that I would do it. I would reunite Josi and Ekholm. The second pairing, I'd have McDonagh as the stay-at-home defenseman. He's still very good at this point in his career at doing that. And you'd have Carrier on the right side, and then you can still keep Fabro in the defensive core on a third pairing with either Borowiecki or with Lauzon. It's just that from what I've seen, Carrier is more acclimated for the NHL right now at this point and can handle that sort of workload versus Fabro, who did play with Josi. Okay, now Josi was 6th in Hart Trophy voting, but that's the way that I would configure my pairings going forward. My fourth defenseman here is from the Anaheim Ducks, and you saw him in the thumbnail. It's Jamie Drysdale. Now, maybe this is a bit premature, but I think that Drysdale, despite having Klingberg also in the defensive core, will have an increased role with the Ducks this next year. It's just his 3rd season, and this past year he played the full 82 games. He actually played 81, but he had 4 goals, 28 assists for 32 points. 12 of those being on the power play. It'll be even more interesting to see how he develops at the man advantage with those weapons that he has. They also brought in Strome and Vetrano, in addition to, of course, you've got Mason McTavish, Zegras, Troy Terry. It'll be interesting to see what the defensive pairings look like for the Ducks this upcoming season. So could you see Cam Fowler play with John Klingberg, or does Fowler drop down and play with the younger Drysdale? And Klingberg, who is a veteran of his own, would he play with somebody like Urho Vakanainen? So it's yet to be seen here, but either way, I think that Drysdale has a lot of potential that he's already starting to realize in the NHL. He was over a point per game player in the OHL, played well in his short time with the San Diego Gulls as well. Up next from the Toronto Maple Leafs, I've selected Timothy Liljegren. Now, one reason why I selected him instead of Rasmus Sandin is because I think there is real opportunity at the right side of the defensive pairings for somebody like Liljegren to maybe even rise into a top 4 role. So yeah, you have Riley, you have Muzzin, and you also have Giordano on the left side. So Sandin might not get into as many games this upcoming season unless somebody like Muzzin were to get injured. I hope that doesn't happen. But Liljegren could maybe slide in place of somebody like Justin Hull and play a second pairing role. So this last season, in 61 games, he had 5 goals and 18 assists for 23 points. Also a plus 15 rating. Only appeared in 2 games in the playoffs, but now that Dermott has moved on, I think there's opportunity for Timothy Liljegren to be kind of a defenseman of the future for the Toronto Maple Leafs. My sixth defenseman is already somewhat established in the NHL, but I still don't think he gets enough love because the defensive core around him is fantastic. And that's my guy, K'Andre Miller of the New York Rangers. Man, this guy is just a tremendous, fundamentally sound stay-at-home defenseman. He plays physically. He's very responsible with the puck. Look at his takeovers or takeaways to giveaways ratio. That's something else. He was really good in the playoffs as well. So 82 games played, 7 goals, 13 assists for 20 points, plus 23 rating, 20 and a half minutes of time on ice. Also had 2 goals and 5 assists in 20 playoff games, Really good defensive efficiency metrics as well. So it's really not just Adam Fox and Ryan Lindgren. Lindgren's starting to get some love. I like to see that. It's not just Jacob Trouba either, but really K'Andre Miller is just budding into a tremendous defenseman, especially in his own zone. He does have a little bit of offensive upside. I think he'll build on that a little bit more this upcoming season as well. Really, that came to light when he played at the University of Wisconsin, but now that he's, in his third or fourth season in the NHL, I do expect that this guy will actually put some points up, maybe close to like 35 next year. So I love the way that this guy's coming along with the Rangers. The next defenseman I'll talk about here is from the Arizona Coyotes, and it's Victor Söderström. So with him, he's only played 20 games in the NHL, so I normally wouldn't include him on this list. But the thing with the Coyotes is that they're so incredibly thin at right defense that this guy could actually crack a second pairing, who knows, maybe even a top pairing role on this team. As we know, the Coyotes, they're not exactly looking to compete for a Stanley Cup this upcoming season, and Söderström does have some great puck-moving upside. He was drafted 11th overall in 2019, and the Hockey News actually does project that he's going to make this roster out of training camp. He played in 16 games this past season, and he didn't actually have any points. Granted, he came in kind of cold to the opportunity. He did play over 16 minutes of time on ice, so not too terribly sheltered. He does have some offensive upside, though, so he had 19 points in 32 games that same season in the AHL with the Tucson Roadrunners. The next defenseman I selected is Adam Boqvist from the Columbus Blue Jackets. I did kind of waffle back and forth between him, but kind of like I was talking about with the Coyotes, the Blue Jackets are a little bit thin at right-handed defense. Of course, you have Zach Werenski, the top defenseman for this team, but the way that things are actually projected right now, you could see somebody like Eric Branson, who was signed in the offseason, or you could even see Adam Boqvist, play a top pairing role for this team or eventually get into that sort of opportunity. So 52 games played, 11 goals and 11 assists for 22 points. And really for Boqvist, this would be the season to start coming alive because this team has a couple of really good defensive prospects in the likes of David Jiricek and also Denton Matejchuk. So those guys are 18 years old, but that being said, Boqvist, his time in Columbus would be wearing thin unless he's able to develop this upcoming season. He has some more work to do at his own end of the ice. Next up on my list is probably premature as well, but I really like what I saw from this guy in the playoffs, and that is St. Louis Blues defenseman Scott Perunovich. So excellent puck-moving capabilities. He stepped in there to help quarterback the power play while Torrey Krug was injured, and I thought he did a terrific job. I mean, the distribution, the decision-making from his end, I thought was something that you would see in a top-pairing defenseman. He had 6 assists in 19 regular season games with the Blues. He had 4 assists in 7 games in the postseason. He also had 22 points in 17 games with the Springfield Thunderbirds, who are a really good team in the AHL this past season. And don't forget, he actually had to overcome a wrist surgery, and yours truly does know something about that as well. I have this nice little surgery scar here from snowboarding many years ago. So Perunovich is a battler, and yeah, I mean, I think that his offensive upside is pretty damn high. The problem with the Blues is that they are pretty stacked as the depth defenseman roles sort of go, from guys like Marco Scandella. Nico Mikkola could be off the roster. Calle Rosen has played as well, but he could be off the roster. So Perunovich could be 7th or 8th fiddle for a couple of these defensemen out there, unless they did move somebody along and make a trade or something like that. So anyway, I hope that the opportunity is there. I read a few articles from The Athletic, from the Hockey Writers, and Yardbarker, and they're all saying that, yeah, he might not play the full 82 games, but he's still going to serve a role for this team this season, and I'm looking forward to watching that. And my last breakout defenseman from the Dallas Stars, I have Thomas Harley. So he only played 34 games this past season and just 13 minutes and 41 seconds of time on ice with just a goal and 3 assists. But I do like the addition of Colin Miller to otherwise a very stable and solid defensive core. Of course, you've got Miro Heiskanen, you've got Esa Lindell, you've got Yanni Hakanpää, and Ryan Suter. So Miller and Harley, maybe for a full season together, that could actually work out pretty well. It's good to have a strong veteran presence for somebody who can stay at home. Maybe Colin Miller can fill that sort of void. Now, for Thomas Harley, he was ranked recently in the Athletics top 50 prospects. He was number 50. And like Jesper Boqvist, he has some defensive facets of his game to work on, but he does have some of that transition and puck moving capability. We'll see if he gets a chance here with the Stars. Maybe he'll have a chance to actually get some second unit power play opportunities out there as well. Anyway, guys, who are your breakout defensemen for this upcoming season? Make sure you sound off down in the comments down below and stick around for more great content like this throughout the offseason. We'll talk about goaltenders who could break out this upcoming season. We'll also talk about wingers as well. And as I mentioned before, watch my video on breakout centers if you haven't already. I've got all sorts of other great content. So hit the thumbs up to help attract others like yourselves to this channel. Subscribe if you're new here and follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter and on Instagram. Just see the video description down below. Thank you, Twisters, so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Nick, and I'll catch you later. Ciao.